This week on RSBANDB Update, Archaeology Relic Presets, Drakolith changes, and Bird Nest renaming form the February mini hit list strike. Combat achievements arrive next week, and we preview the rewards. Then, we do a RuneFest retrospective of what arrived and what missed the mark. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1025, recorded Thursday, February 13th, 2025, pitching a tent for RuneFest. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, coming at you down the pipe, we have Archaeology Relic Presets, amongst some other things. Tanis, welcome.
Thank you, Shane. I'm a little embarrassed. You'll find out why.
Okay, fair enough. Also, here's Parnassius, welcome.
G'day.
So you guys ready to get into some archaeology presets, patch notes, and a look back at RuneFest of years past to see what arrived and maybe what didn't, since RuneFest's on the way?
Oh, yeah.
That part I am. The mini strike and that. There's a couple of okay things, but nothing that's really... I mean, yeah. The relics, that's decent, but I was still... Why can't we have a freaking bag for our artifacts?
Okay, that's something we can get into. Fair enough. In the meantime, of course, I want to extend a big, huge thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members for whom without update would not be possible. This week, that's Amos Reed, Dominic R., Drama Free, Harry, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mr. T, Ricky A., Runestar, Oasis, The Naked Captain, and Tim. Big, huge thank you to all of those wonderful people. You'll be hearing more about our Patreon offerings a bit later in the podcast, but in the meantime, if you do want to follow along, we have full show notes available over at update.show. We also have a community Discord that you can join, update.show/Discord, and a friends chat can be found in-game at BitsBytes. But, of course, we're going to get down the pipe to the RuneFest stuff in a bit. But to begin with, we have Archaeology Relic Presets, something people have been asking for, I think, since the beginning of Archaeology, thinking about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You get the first you get two presets for free. You can buy a third one once you unlock Professor at 80,000 chronotes, and then once you complete the Guildmaster qualification, you get the fourth relic preset. And what are we thinking here in terms of how we want to go for presets? What are you guys thinking in terms of how you want to structure yours?
Here's the embarrassing part.
Yeah.
I don't really even need a preset because I have so few. It's not that big of a deal to switch.
Okay.
On and off.
And yeah, I mean, really, there's only one or two that. I mean, if I'm switching out for skilling, I just do it. I have one that I use for bossing and one I use for skilling, so it's not a big thing for me. As I said, I would much rather have seen them look at some sort of artifact storage bag, because just the amount. I mean, working through it on Iron Man, just trying to. I've just dropped some relics because I just didn't have the bank space.
We were actually talking about the relics stuff in group storage, because or the artifact storage, if you wanted to for group storage, that would just eat it all up, with how many there are, unless you're looking for something specific. But
that's right.
One interesting note with this is that switching the active loadout only costs 80% of the chronote cost of each relic that is harnessed to that loadout, so it saves you 20% when you swap between your most commonly used sets, and if a relic is harnessed to both either your active loadout and the one you want to change to, the chronicle cost of that relic swap is also deducted from the loadout activation cost. So you do have the option to save a bit of money when doing that.
Yeah, but again, that's the thing. Generally, there's only one, because I've always got the Ring of Wealth, or the Dwarven one on there. That's pretty much always there. There's 2 combat ones. If I do a skilling, if I'm going to be doing a whole lot of rune running, I'll swap to the pouch. If I'm going to be doing farming for a while, I'll just put the farming. So it's only one that I am generally swapping at a time anyway. So that's what I said. It's going to be great for people who are still leveling up and are going to switching between PVM and skill.
That's exactly my use case for it, because I have a PVM one that is focused on survivability, and then I have another one that allows me to have the Blessing of Het in place with it. So basically what that one is doing is it's just swapping between Death Ward and Blessing of Het, because I'll use the Blessing of Het at places where you hemorrhage lots of food, like Sanctum and Raziel. But if I'm doing something a lot more traditional in terms of PVM, like Carapac, I'll use Death Ward. And then I also, of course, have one that I'm going to, put together over time that's going to have the skilling stuff in it, which is going to be probably pharmacology, probably the thieving one, but I don't do much thieving now that it's, maxed and whatnot, and maybe the divination one if that would be the case, but definitely the farming one is going to be on there, and that's 3 of 4 slots that are already spoken for. And you know what I was thinking the third one could be for? My third one, or I guess the fourth one, because I said 3 of 4 already spoken for, but my fourth one, the boss that had the weirdest relic setup that I had this past year was the Gate of Elidness. Because
the skilling boss?
Yeah, the skilling boss. Because what I ran there was I ran Shadow's Grace to reduce the cooldown of Surge and Dive. I also ran Persistent Rage so that I could have my adrenaline back up after I would use the Dragon Battle Axe special to use the barricade ability. And then I guess for the other one you could put a flex in there, like maybe Luck of the Dwarves if you use those, but I haven't actually filled those ones out yet, and that would prevent the ring swap from happening. So I see the potential there to have a good setup for the gate as well with that. So my presets are going to be filled sooner rather than later on this. But overall, I think the thing that wasn't really talked about with this, and one of the happy points that we're going to see with this, is that this is just another sync for Chronotes for people who have 120 or 200 mil archaeology and are sitting on Chronotes. It's going to be a nice drop of Chronotes in the market for those of us who aren't on Group IRP.
My main has over 4 million Chronotes.
I wonder if I didn't get to check this, but I wonder if there was a spike this week briefly in Chronote costs.
Oh, I should have looked at that and sold them. Yeah.
So that would have.
But I think people who are going to buy the third loadout will probably already have 80,000 Chronotes hanging around anyway. Yeah, and
I feel like what I've outlined here is a pretty thorough end game setup, and to that point, I don't necessarily know if somebody who's just leveling up or just dipping their feet into PVM, if they need more than two presets.
Oh yeah, 2. I think 2 are going to be more than enough for most people.
Yeah. So
as I said, high-level bosses will probably have a couple of different ones that they switch between. Those elite 5%. But for the majority of people, I think 2 is going to be more than enough. Yeah. And the 80% cost is good too, because if you are running short, but as I said, hitting 200 mil, I've got over 4 million Chronotes, so.
Yeah, and I mean, swapping that one relic from Death Ward to Blessing of Het, that's only a 1,600 Chronote cost because of the reduction that it gives. So, I mean, it's worth using the system even just for that.
Yeah.
So I know there was also some question about whether you could access it both from the Archaeology Cape and the Monolith. Yes, you can access it from both of them as well. So,
yeah.
Nice to see some changes to our beloved archaeology skill.
But just please, next time, give us an artifact storage bag. Even if it's just one bag per sort of building, dig site, you know? You have one for Bandos, have one for Armadillo. You know, even if it's not just one box to put everything in. Yeah.
Give us a drawer.
Just something, because it's like it takes up so much bank space.
In a month and a half, it'll be 5 years since Archaeology came out.
No.
Wow.
Jesus.
March 30th, 2020.
I'm old, people.
March 30th, 2020. The lightning, once in a lifetime lightning strike of RuneScape skill launch and pandemic.
Wow. Well, we hope anyway.
Well, I mean, if there's another pandemic, you know what Jagex has to do, right? And they have to launch another skill right as it's getting underway.
Yeah, they should have one just in the background, just in case. Just keep one aside.
Just in case bird flu takes off, right?
Oh, God, don't talk about that. They just killed a whole bunch of bloody hens here. Every other bird's okay, but yeah, just kill our chickens.
Yeah, it seems to be something related to the farm stock. I'm not entirely sure.
Hey, as long as it ain't an emu, right? Like, those kicked your ass, didn't they?
Yeah, emus are vicious. Cassowaries are worse. Go up north and get your cassowaries.
Well, I think since we're on the topic of birds and emus, I think it's probably a good time to move on to the rest of the patch notes this week because yeah, okay.
Hey, rename birds nest.
Yeah, we could start with that one if you want.
But hey, there you go, you know.
They renamed the bird's nest to be more consistent in their naming to match the naming that the RS Wiki uses because that more accurately describes the content of the nest. And I think this is the first time ever that the game has changed the name to coincide with something that the wiki called something. I think that's the first time that's happened.
What is it now, like an indigenous bird dwelling, or what?
I don't. I mean,
they're not called emu and cassowary nests. I'll give you that.
It's just. Do I need to look this up? It's just bird's nest plus with, seeds, cheap seeds, ring, with the egg next to it. And it actually shows the Mkando hatchet names in it now that you get. So it's actually very clear. So I think we thank the wiki for this one in particular. So Bird's Nest Wood Spirit, Bird's Nest Seeds, Bird's Nest Plus Seeds, Bird's Nest Cheap Seeds, ones for ring, the eggs, and then the hatchet pieces as well. So thank you, wiki, for providing that extra bit of clarification on that. Here's a big one for us that we worked through a number of weeks back on the group Iron Man. They reduced the durability of orichalcite and Drakolith mining rocks.
Yeah, after all, we've gone through it already. Yeah, thank you.
That's like the third time that I've hung out on Rune.
Yeah, because what we basically did as a result of this when we were leveling up is that we basically stayed at Rune until level 70.
Which wasn't all... I mean, it's not all bad because you can use that stuff for invention, but it's not how it's meant to be. Like, this is a good little catch balancing.
Yeah. The durability was brought down from 1,400 to 1,000. So
much better.
The player will now spawn in tall grass when starting around a big game hunter.
That's a good one.
That's a long time coming on that one.
I went and tried some big game hunter. Definitely need double surge.
Yeah, I need to get to that because that is actually the key for high level farming, I believe, with the seeds that we're going to be needing.
Yeah.
So,
Torsals especially.
Also, a last contact option has been added with the NPC contact spell.
That's good.
Who and
Especially
maybe,
if you only use one.
yeah. Can you guys fill in to me, like, what do people use NPC contact for in this day and age?
Nothing, but I mean, it's a good
I
one
don't
if
know.
you do use it. I mean, some people use it for Slayer,
Alchemy?
I think.
You
But
can use
what
them
if
for
you-
construction contracts, I think, right? Or no? Am I
Yeah,
thinking,
construction.
or is that old
yeah.
school?
No, you can. No, you
Okay.
can use them for
Okay.
construction contacts. So
All
yeah,
right.
if you're at your construction, rather than having to go back, you just go click on that. But really, you need to go back and get all your stuff anyway. If your house is a priff, it's like right next to a bank. So, but
Yeah,
still,
once you get
it's
all
something that it's a little quality of life thing. For again, we're looking at it from a higher end. We don't know what that sort of mid-level does
Sure.
use on those things. So yeah, it may be something that is a niche use for a group of people. So anything that's quality life update, I'll always give them a tick for.
They displayed hatchet when wood cutting now matches the hatchet stored in the tool belt. I was wondering about this because I was always consistently wood cutting with a rune hatchet, even though I had higher ones in my tool belt.
Yeah, me too. So that works well.
Bird's nests are now included on the output for the inspect option of the wood box.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
See
The
what
Grand
bird's nest you got in there.
Exchange buy limit for Masterwork bows is now consistent with other Masterwork weapons. And the unbearable sleuth of 18 grizzly
Jesus.
bears near the Legends Guild has been halved to the simple bear necessities. Ha, 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 ha.
Bare necessities.
Yeah.
No, that again a good one because there's.
I don't know if you guys saw that, how
bears.
many of them there were there.
Oh yeah, I was
yeah,
doing
that's-
I do a lot of when I was doing Mithril and Coal, that was where I was doing it at. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And you'd have to be careful when you're clicking because there's always a bear
bears.
standing on one of the rocks too. Suddenly you're mining a bear. They don't like that.
No.
They don't like being stuck with a pickaxe.
No, they don't. Players will no longer receive damage from Karapak the Bound after he's been defeated. Right on, that's good. I think I might have died that way once or twice in the past. Blocking has been added to various fires. No more standing in the fire.
That's good.
Players should no longer receive a message stating that they've skipped a clue step when they're about to receive their casket. I'm betting that's due to the way the outfit was interacting with things.
Yeah. Again, it's just a little message. It's quality of life thing, but nothing that really bothered you.
Yeah, the Clan Cloak's fealty experience reward now gives the correct amount of invention experience, if you were using it for that. And finally, Living Rock Predators, Strikers, and Patriarchs now count towards Killy's Knowledge 6 as a Slayer task. So those ones weren't included there. The Living Rock creatures. But that's it for the patch notes. Definitely, I think outside of the archaeology stuff, I think the nicest thing that we have in here this week is probably the Bird's Nest renamings.
Yeah.
So. All right. Just a couple of other bits and bobs before we get into our main topic of the week here for this. Combat achievements are arriving on Monday. And there is a blog post out that goes over exactly what the rewards are going to be for completing various tiers of them and examples of what the achievements might be. But in the meantime, with this week's update, they put out a list of 156 combat achievements that you can get started on if you wanted to get going on them before they arrive on Monday. And a lot of the ones that are on this list are the kill count tasks, like defeating bosses 10 times, 25 times, and so on and so forth. With that, there's also the ones on there for defeating the God of Wars 1 generals in solo mode. For example, all aboard, defeating Kriara solo after allowing to push you from one wall to another with his ranged tornado and magic tornado attacks. I think you were just talking. Was that you that was talking recently, Pern, about Kriara and how it wasn't a pushover like you expected?
Well, he is now that I've got the next tier of weapons.
Oh, right on.
I can pretty much AFK him, but I did accidentally get that that task done. I didn't realize it was a task, and I sort of misclicked him, ran out, and he just blew me backwards and bounced off one wall into the other, and it gave it done. I thought, beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, so the sense we're getting with this is that there's going to be a lot of achievements that arrive next week that you probably have already done if you've been doing a bit of PVM in the past on that. So,
which is good because there's going to be 558 tasks all up. So
wow,
yeah,
that's
and I think this is kind of like the kind of evergreening system that people are hoping for, right? With the combat achievements, like there's going to be 19 easy achievements, 58 medium, 173 hard, 172 elite, 92 master, and 44 grandmaster. I think it's nice to see the bulk of them combined in that hard and elite category rather than leaning too heavily on master.
Which is what I was worried that they were going to be doing.
Yeah. We don't necessarily know what's going to be in the master or grandmaster achievements just yet, but we are lining up the PVM people to be on the podcast for this next week to talk about that. There's going to be new features at War's Retreat called War's Blessing that, for example, at Tier 1 gives you a 5% increased chance of activating Reaper's Choice, a free attunement per day of one of the boss portals at War's Retreat, 5% increase to Marks of War, and quick access to the Central Sarcophagus during the Barrows encounter. That's nice. Very nice, because running around there is a pain. War's Blessing Tier 2 no longer require kill count for God Wars Dungeon 1, excluding Next. That's a big one.
That's what I want, yeah.
Kill count halved for God Wars Dungeon 2, Sign of Life cooldown reduced by half, 10% chance increased of increased activation on Reaper's Choice, and 2 free attunements of the boss portals per day. Tier 3 is where it really gets interesting in my view, and we'll dive more into this next time, is that you actually get to choose the rotations now here for Barrows and Araxor. So you're not necessarily confined to one path. So if you don't like doing minions or you don't like doing shadows, you can just force it to be the other one. You'll be able to swap your prayer book at Tier 3 at War's Retreat, and then moving on to Tier 4, you'll be able to choose the rotation active at Virago of all things. And guaranteed chance of activating Reaper's Choice, so you will get Reaper's Choice every time you get a Reaper task. And something they're calling War's Ancient Armor Gizmos and War's Ancient Weapon Gizmos, which I'm assuming is just a costless gizmo that you can use to make any perk that you want. That's going to be neat. But more on combat achievements next week. That was just a quick run through, and note that if you do PVM, you might already have some of them complete. But we're going to talk about what we expect to happen from RuneFest based on looking at past RuneFest announcements. But before we do that, I just want to give a quick thank you to our Patreon members this week, everybody who's supporting the podcast this week. It truly does mean the world to us this week. I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Arvids L., Braden K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Guy Lafleur, Hare, Iskantu, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Keski, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongraph, Mr. T, Pernasius, Ricky A, Robbie D, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Oasis, Targayen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you, everybody. It means the world to us. Patreon survey is just about wrapping up. I sent out a message to all Patreon members today to do the survey if you've already not done that. So check your Patreon inbox or your email for that if you want a link to the Patreon survey. We're going to be using that to determine where the Patreon offerings go for this year. But if you want to take part in that, or you want access to any of the other 75-plus monthly bit bonus shows that we do, you head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and you get access to that entire back catalog, plus all the voting rights that we have. For $3 a month, you'll join the RSBANB Update VIP tier. You'll get a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, stereo version of the show, plus a Discord rank and Discord chat channel as well. And, of course, we also have the Insider tier, where for $5 a month, you receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week, and you'll gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. And of course, experience tier is now full, so we'll let you know if those open up again in the future. But thanks so much, everybody, for allowing us to do what we do here. It really does mean the world to us, and we wouldn't do half the fun stuff that we do if it weren't for you guys. So thank you, truly.
Thanks, guys.
All right. RuneFest, past RuneFest updates. I think we should go chronological for this.
Okay.
Start at the
most recent and talk about
and go backwards.
And go backwards and see what was there, because last time we had a RuneFest was 2019.
That's
the fall of that year.
So weird to think that's been that long.
It is weird.
And we were in a very interesting place at that point, because Anachronia had just come out that summer, and we had a content drought leading up to RuneFest. But at that RuneFest, they announced the Elder God Wars, which of course didn't arrive till 2021, but that's fine. They also announced Desperate Measures, following Desperate Times, the City of Sintistan, and as an Audrey's Quest, the quests that were moving us towards extinction and the end of the Elder God Wars arc. But I think the biggest things that came from that RuneFest, and I'm going to save the biggest for last, was the Ranch Out of Time, 120 Farming, and 120 Herblore. Because those launched on Thanksgiving of that year. And Tanis, remember our discussion back with Mod Warden about needing to hit the consistent marks to actually ship updates, right? Because there was the discussion about whether or not 120 Farming and Herblore should have been delayed into the new year, but they had to get to the point where they actually just had to ship something with that. And I think when you look at Ranch Out of Time, 120 Farming and Herblore, as the first 120s, they kind of set the benchmark for what we're getting now with the 110s, and really just fleshed out two skills that I was a fan of going in, but I don't know if they made more people fans.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think they sort of missed the mark a little bit on the farming. I think the Ranch Out of Time and the player-owned farm should have been that 99 to 120 mark. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Ranch Out of Time was so much fun, breeding your own dinosaurs and such. 120 Herblore, it's always the sort of a good money-sinking skill, which the game sorely needs, and brought in some really interesting potions and such.
Yeah, and not only that, for me, it was more about tightening that ecosystem.
Yes,
between the two skills.
Yep, definitely. Very, very good updates.
When it comes to the potions behind it, I assume you're talking about, in particular, the power bursts, right?
Power bursts, yeah, they were really interesting ones, especially things like the mining ones and vitality and such.
I know I use the Vitality one in a lot of my PVM encounters whenever I'm on the edge of maybe dying or something.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
great for that type of thing.
So
yeah, they tied them in very well together.
But the biggest thing that came from that announcement and they actually shipped was Archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew, I think we knew the name of the skill going in because that was when they did that silly thing on stream where somebody gave the directive to Mod Shawnee to reveal the name.
Yeah.
And I think...
Wait, was it Mod Shawnee?
No, yeah, it was Mod Shawnee. He was still around at the time, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was Osborne, but anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was Osborne too.
Was it Osborne that gave the okay to reveal?
I thought it was Osborne that let it. Yeah, I thought it was Osborne that let it slip. But anyway.
Oh yeah, it was him that let it slip. He was on the stream with Shawnee. Right. That's how. It went.
Yeah.
Now, who do we think that? Do we think that higher up that gave the go to let that loose was probably Warden at the time, right?
Would you reckon it was allowed to be let loose, or it's just Mod Osborne, as in his excitement, just did it?
No. It was something that was clearly a last minute decision. I think.
Yeah.
Based on the video that was there, but we got more details about archaeology at that RuneFest, and we got the playtest there. And I remember talking to Sirion earlier in the day because he was there. And his entire sense about hearing about archaeology initially was that, it's not necessarily going to be a good thing, but they actually had a playtest set up there of the Everlight dig site, and that sold him. And I think the rest is history on what happened with archaeology there.
And the delays we had on it and things, which
because it was supposed to come out in January, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But they needed a bit more time for it.
That's why they dropped War's Retreat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So I feel like if you copy and paste that's probably what we're going to be looking at for this year. And I don't think we're going to be getting another skill announcement. I think instead the big money announcement is going to be what the new area expansion is.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Because I think that was teased for what will be there. And if we're going to just go out on a limb here, what would you guys say you'd expect for a new area expansion?
I mean, I'm hoping that we get the Western lands that Old School have, but I'm not sure. I'll just go with the flow what they get. I think we're also going to get another announcement on the next lot of 110 skills, but yeah.
Yeah, those seem to have been going well, so I don't see why they would stop.
Mm-hmm.
Tannis, if you had to give a shot in the dark, what would your 110 or not 110 announcement be, but your new area expansion?
It's hard. I mean, it's kind of a cop out, but probably the next Arc area.
Yeah, I think that's something else that people have been kind of saying might be a good idea is, just go with the Skull as the next Arc area, because that would inherently be a combat focused area, and you could learn with how the content has evolved since then that they ship and what we had with the Arc. So Eastern Lands is a good option there.
Yeah, I think the safer money would be on the Arc expansion, but my heart wants the Western Lands.
Yeah, I think that would be good to see, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know how you can kind of go left or right on that, since that's already kind of an old school kind of thing.
But Old School was supposed to be the testing ground to bring into this game, so. I mean, there's pros and cons on both, so we'll see what happens. But I think, if you're putting money on it, I would put money on Arc. If as I said, if I'm going with my heart, I want Western Lands.
All right, fair enough. 2019 saw announcements like the Needle Skips Elite Dungeon 3 featuring the Ambassador. But the biggest ones that came out of that in terms of sheer magnitude were the alchemical onyx and the firming up of the mining and smithing rework. Alchemical onyx, just because of what that opened us up to with things like Luck of the Dwarves and Grace of the Elves, and eventually that paved the path for the Hydrix jewelry with the Essence of Finality. I think that was a fairly important update for them to drop, but this confirmed to us that finally the mining and smithing rework was going to be there as it updated early 2019. And I think we all breathed a sigh of relief when that happened. Because they'd been talking about it and prototyping it for so long. You guys remember how with the early mining and smithing rework stuff, they basically did an entire prototype, pulled it, and then threw it out, and we weren't sure if it would get off the ground again.
Yeah.
Yep, I thought it would be binned after that one.
And I think we're very thankful that it wasn't. So.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. And I also have to say, I don't think that they would commit to a level of rework to that level again, would they?
Yeah. No.
And again, I mean, they don't need to do it. They need to, when they do reworks, they need to do it at the 95 plus areas. That's basically it. Maybe 85s, but they don't need to rework the entire skill from level 1 up.
Some of them.
Well, yeah, but I mean, most of them are fairly easy to get.
What are you thinking could be one of those skills?
Agility needs to.
Yeah, but agility is easy. Get to 50 on agility, and then you go.
And then you go where?
You know, as I said, it's in the higher. Getting to level 50 or 60 agility isn't that hard. It's after that where it becomes very monotonous and boring, and you know, it needs something in those higher tiers to, well, A, to make it useful, and B, to give you alternative types of training rather than running in circles around the same things over and over.
Yeah,
and
beyond
over again.
level 70, 73 for Fate of the Gods, 75 for Plague's End, 77 for Ritual of the Mazharat, 80 for The Light Within, and 83 for Pieces of Hate.
Yep, I'm going for 83 on that. I'm doing my 20k a day at Priff on the stones now.
And see, that's a passive way of doing it. And then when you line it all up, what's the alternative to it aside from some passive XP like that? So
exactly.
I feel like 2018 was kind of light in that same regard, that, you know, mining and smithing rework, sure, but also alchemical onyx, ED3, the needle skips, which I guess when you think about it, the needle skips was pretty big.
Yeah, but it was one quest.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the end,
I think that was the year we only had 2 quests overall that year, didn't we? 2018. I think it was only 2, maybe 3 quests for the entire year. It was like, ooh.
They also announced the RuneScape mobile open beta.
Let's not go there.
Well, we're going there next. We're going there next with 2017.
Oh, no.
2017 RuneFest announced the Treasure Trail rework, Pieces of Hate.
Loved it.
And RuneScape Mobile. Right off the bat at the start of the show. Not even in the RuneScape Ahead keynote. Just at the start of the show. A segment welcoming everybody. And that they were going to be rolling out RuneScape Mobile.
That was their white whale, I think.
Yeah, it took.
How they did that?
Because it took like 3 years for it to arrive after that. So.
Yep.
And I feel like,
and by releasing old school first, they really, I think they just killed RS3 as a mobile game by releasing old school the year before.
You know, I don't necessarily agree with that, because when you look at the UI of RS3, it's inherently a more complicated UI, and
of course,
and it's a little bit more difficult to get down. Like I still can't do combat on RS3 mobile.
No,
I can on
totally
old school.
agree there, but they didn't even get I mean, because Old School come out first, you didn't even attract many new players when RS3 eventually came out on mobile.
Yeah, and
OS coming out on mobile did attract a lot of, sort of first-time players giving it a go. Whether they hung around or not, I don't know, because, those aren't numbers that they give us. But
remember we had a live stream. They said 1 in 5 people playing every day are on mobile.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but I mean, as in new players that saw it, because there was I was getting adverts and everything about OSRS, in other games and things like that. They'd sort of pop up. But I didn't see anything on RS3 when that eventually dropped.
Yeah, and we, at the time tracked the player numbers on that, and obviously there was a huge push for the pre-launch of it to ensure that it would get featured, and it did. But at the same time, I feel like this was a strategy that they wanted to pull off for RS3 that would see them expand into like the developing markets of Middle East and Asia. But they never really did that. That never really came to fruition.
Nope.
That must have been the hope. I mean, to me, it ended up being fine because it's a quality of life update for RS players that were already playing. I don't think we got any new players out of the deal, but
like I know there are people that listen to the show that have messaged me that have said that they only play on mobile. And if it wasn't for mobile, they would never have come back to the game because they can just have it up on their phone as they work.
Yeah,
but that's come back, and I mean, as Tanner said, it's a quality of life thing for already existing players. I don't think it brought anyone new, and that's fair enough. I mean, OSRS is really a great design for a mobile game, and as you said, with all our interfaces and everything on here, it is very. I mean, I struggle. I've been playing the game for 14 years, and I struggle with mobile. Oh, hang on, how do I get that? How do I get that? And, I've got to hold this down for 3 seconds and that to open things. So it's not an easy game. So it's a great little quality of life. Yeah, I'm not feeling great. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm going to open up the iPad and just sit there and do some mining or whatever while I'm falling asleep. The TV on, but it's not going to draw a new player base.
Yeah, and the entire run for mobile, just following from the history page of it, started in March or April of 2017, and it didn't ship until 4+ years later. On that, and since
but
then,
even that wasn't it. Sort of even before that was where they announced it. But I think it was even a year before they were sort of working on it.
Not according to the wiki. And the thing about that is, I remember the inherent joke is that summer 2017, but I think this is the benchmark, and this is the time where things start to shift. Because if you look at the mobile update, this was really the last thing that they announced at RuneFest that didn't arrive on time and on schedule.
Yep. And I think that's... I'm sure there's a million factors, but one of them is the leadership that was there at the time that knew updates had to, at some point, they had to come out, and they had to be consistent, and they had to get a couple wins under their belt.
Yeah. Because also at that 2017 RuneFest, we had things like deep sea fishing, safe cracking, the Lost Grove and Solak. Now, the Lost Grove and Solak, that came right away. Safe cracking and deep sea fishing as well. And in many ways, that was kind of the renaissance, the second, golden age of RuneScape, in my view, revitalizing all those skilling things, leading to things like
deep sea fishing,
like the player on farm in 2018. So, 2017 mobile's announcement and playtest there was probably the last thing that didn't really arrive on time. And that's the thing I want to say going into this RuneFest is that we expect, I think, that barring catastrophe, most everything announced at this RuneFest in a few weeks' time will probably arrive as expected.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then if you go, as you said, if you go back from 2016 backwards, half the stuff that they announced.
Look at my list here for RuneFest 2016 of things that have asterisks next to them. They announced the Arc Batch 2 because that was batch content.
Okay.
They also announced Children of Mon, Slisuke's Endgame. Endgame arrived at the end of 2016. Fine. Shattered Worlds, that came in, but as you know, needed lots of work around the edges. Menaphos was announced at RuneFest 2016 to great hype. We know what happened there. I debated.
Again, I mean, I think the thing for expansions was a great idea, and playing through Menaphos now, it is brilliant content for mid-level game. But I think, again, at that time, there were so many higher level players in that sort of 85 plus range, where Menaphos is aimed at that 60 to 80 range. I think that's why it fell on its face. And breaking up quests, I mean, quests like, Crocodile Tears, that's not a quest. That was run and get me this. Run and get me this. Now run and get me this. Go and do this. It was a fetch quest. It wasn't it looked beautiful, but it wasn't a
What about
fun.
What about with Menaphos Game 120 Slayer? Because that was all part of the expansion.
That was the best part of it.
Yes, that was the only good
was
thing.
Was it, though? They only added 3 new monsters from 99 to 120.
Well,
the dungeon.
But they gave you your own dungeon.
Yes. That was worth it in of itself.
Yep.
Okay, I had to ask about that, because you two are Slayer people.
Yeah, having my own dungeon, I could sit there, okay, these are the monsters that I just want to kill. I could put in the Capsiaries for keys, just throw a bunch of those in and just AFK when I'm not doing anything else and just gather up those keys and things for when I want to go and do those. Being able to put your own creatures in there when you're when you're hunting for the souls and all that type of stuff, that added that fun bit to put those souls in there, and then to fill out your collection logs and such. I think 120 Slayer, they only had, again, that's probably a skill that would have benefited from doing 99 to 110 and then later on 110 to 120. But it gave them that opportunity to keep rolling out a new Slayer creature every now and then, and unfortunately they didn't follow through on that, which is what they discussed at the time. We're bringing out 3 new creatures, but we will be filling in those gaps, and that sort of fell by the wayside. Again, we're looking at that period of a lot of broken promises. Well, but again, it's a type of thing. Have a new quest. It can lead to a new Slayer monster and things like that. You can add things in, but again, at that time and in the sort of 3 or 4 years following, it was another one of those broken promise type, reveals.
We had to have a whole unfinished business, part of a year because of all these.
And that's kind of where I go next with the rest of the 2016 announcements. They mentioned skilling offhands in the future of skilling talk, which really haven't come into their own until, I want to say, a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. And even then, there's still so many. Some are very lackluster. Some are fantastic, but again, very limited in what skills have that availability.
Which, by the way, there's a monthly bid on that very topic if people are interested in looking at the skilling offhands.
Again, you can't augment them the way you can weapon offhands. There's still, I think, skilling offhands still needs a lot of work.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not a lot of work, but a fair amount of work.
Well, in particular, the Runica tuner.
Yeah, well, again, okay, it's there, whatever. But I'm looking at other skills, being able to augment them, having some good skilling perks we can use on main and offhands, things like that.
Yeah, and the thing with that too is that this started off as, an idea. Mon Shawnee picked it up in their Tap Time Thursday afternoon passion project stuff. And then he left, and then we didn't see skilling offhands until until Croesus. And then subsequent ones came in with archaeology. So it's been, I'll just say it's been a wild ride, but I feel like we're in an okay spot now on those. Yeah. They also announced the Ambassador, which, we fast forward to when Elite Dungeon 3 was announced in RuneFest 2018 and arriving in early 2019. So, 2.5 years from the time that they announced that. And then some things that never saw the light of day, including bank bidders, the weather system, and the pet park.
And we were all excited about the pet park, and bank bidders was going to be so much fun, but pet park was one I was actually looking forward to.
Yeah, so let's actually start with the one that arrived first, the bank rework. This didn't arrive until, what was it? Was this a 2019 update, I think? I think bank rework arrived in 2019.
I thought it was after that. I thought it was 2020. You could be right.
Bank rework first arrived, or first mentioned at RuneFest 2016, which is where we're at on the chronology list here. And it shipped on September 30th, 2019, with the beta arriving on July 31st, 2019.
But that was only that first iteration that didn't gave us a bit, but not everything.
Right, but it addressed the pain points, because remember, we were going to have things like the tags that would make it so you could just search for food and it would show all food items to it. And they had to scale a lot of this back. And this was the thing at the time, is that when we saw the bank rework arrive in the summer of 2019, the thing that stood out to me about this is that, this is a wonderful piece of content. Why is this not being marketed as, a headline update? And I feel like that they finally did do that at the end, but it was a long road to get to something that the players definitely wanted, that they was an easy win that just took a while to grow into, I think.
I think that one made them nervous. They were always a little hesitant to take too much credit.
Well, remember they shut down everything to back up everyone's accounts. We shut down for, I think it was 3 or 4 hours.
Big backup.
So that they could back everything up and before the release of the bank rework. Just to make sure. And hey, kudos to them, because play it safe.
It was a lockout. It did happen.
It was, but I mean, at least they had that foresight there that, we're not going to have all this drama and such. And people were screaming and being locked out for 3 or 4 hours. I mean, I play games that, they lock me out for 3 hours, every second week because they're doing their upgrades and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But in hindsight, they learned a year and a bit later with the login lockout that you kind of do need to... You kind of do need to have backups like that.
Yep.
So. But what didn't arrive? Bank bidders. In hindsight, this is kind of a crazy idea. I think this was one of Maud Osborne's, and the idea of it is that players would be able to bid and win the contents of banned accounts.
Which was a brilliant idea.
I feel like all these ideas, I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but I feel like they're all Mod Mark ideas, or was he just a messenger that got stuck?
They were Mod Mark and Mod Osborne sitting around after work having a few beers, and then they get that one beer too many where it's time to call a taxi. Let's have an idea and we'll see what we can get. They were great ideas, but long term, would they have worked? Who would have got them? I mean, you got to then start thinking, who's getting what?
Are you offering a gambling service?
Who's exactly.
Because one apparently would have involved a raffle and the other one would have been blind bidding. And in the raffle, you would receive one ticket from entering the bidders area each day and one ticket from completing a daily challenge. And then you could then choose which band account to enter, or which raffle to enter based on the band account. And in blind bidding, you'd be shown a selection of 5 accounts in the bank bidders area. They would have had their names removed, and people would be able to place a max bet on the account, which they believe was the most valuable bank. Then an account's wealth would be determined by their 25 most valuable item stacks, including any tradable items and discontinued rare items. And the player who placed the highest bid would win the banned account's items. That's just crazy thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like a storage ward thing, you know?
Yeah. All the extra party hats that could have come into the game.
Well, in theory, they're kind of, already there. It's just a matter of accessing them from the dearly departed.
As I said, my daughter's boyfriend used to play the game, and he's got an account that he has every color party hat on, and has forgotten the account. Doesn't even remember the login. Doesn't even remember the name he played under. But he does remember. He goes, "Oh yeah, I had all those party hats. They were fun to collect at that Christmas thing." So he actually had every color. I said, "You want to keep dating my daughter? You need to get access to that account and give it to me," which he still hasn't done. And they've moved in and bought a house together. But I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on that bloody account. I must remind him about that too. He owes it to me.
We also have the pet park.
I sold my daughter for a set of party hats.
What do we remember about the pet park?
We were going to have pet battles. It was going to be so much fun.
Right, that's the thing people were saying was going to turn out to be like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was so looking forward to this one. This could have been Summoning 2.0. Get a pet, load it up with some summoning pouches, and fight.
Weather system?
Yeah, well, that never really.
No, and they've started to add.
I was gonna say, yeah,
environmental effects to certain areas like Goshima on the Ark, Draenor darkness, that sort of thing. They started to add things that make sense in that way. And, the question is, would the weather system work in an MMO like this? Others do it, and how would you lean into that, or do you just want to focus on other, types of content instead?
That's it. And while weather's nice to look at and such, half the time I just turn on midday for all areas because it's nice and bright and I can see everything. Weather systems would have been nice if, okay, you're going out here, you're hunting, it's going to be wet, it's going to be hard visibility for the animals, so it's going to be a little easier to trap them. And then we have a sunny day where, hey, they got high visibility, the trees are blowing in the wind, you've got to go upwind and all that. There's so much, but it would have been so much work and would have changed the design of everything. And it was a big call, and again, one which at the time sounded good, but I personally at that time couldn't see how they could pull it off. So.
I feel like bank bidders, the weather system, and the pet park in particular were some very aspirational updates. And I feel like this older era of RuneFest showed off those aspirational updates a lot and didn't make the distinction that they might not necessarily happen.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, that was the other thing. These are ideas we have, but they're in they're in the seed stage. We don't know if they'll blossom and bloom into sort of full content that will come into game. And I think they did learn from that, where sort of after some of these, they did get very shy and sort of only announce things which were basically ready to go into game. Sort of after that sort of 2017 period, after the sort of the 2.16, 2.17 and all the delays and things. It made them very gun shy, and I think we're just now starting to come out of that with getting those road maps and things that we've had the last year.
And things that we could actually believe in and, have a certain section for those aspirational things that might not
Exactly.
come.
Yeah.
Because I know in 2019 they also mentioned, and, just go back to RuneFest 2019 for a second, they mentioned they were looking at some experimental things as well, like movement prediction and faster tick rate, lowering it to 0.1 from 0.6. Now, obviously, both of those never happened at the end of the day, and those were still.
Would it be RuneScape? If you went from 0.6 to 0.1, would it still be RuneScape? Because you're just so used to that 0.6 second is just so inherent in the game of RuneScape.
Yeah,
changing that would change the game completely.
That's what they say. I don't know. I mean,
I'm just so used to with the bosses and that when I'm doing things, I know just click, because you get used to that. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah,
there's also the issue, if you did something like that you would basically need to, as I understand it, rewrite the entirety of the game, anything that involves on timing, so PVM, bossing, you name it, what have you.
Everything would have to be done, yeah.
RuneFest 2015. Sliski's Endgame, Kindred Spirits, Fate of the God 2, which became Children of Ma next year, and the Gower Quest were all announced at 2015. The Mining and Smithing rework was first announced here.
Wow, it seems like it everything is like 2 or 3 years, right, from its announcement.
Well,
basically.
yeah, and again, Mining and Smithing rework, the first sort of plan of it basically got shelved, and they had to redo the whole thing.
And I feel like, if I go back to that RuneFest and that keynote, what was announced there was kind of in the middle of a year that they were trying to iterate RuneScape going forward, and I feel like we didn't know what the future was going to hold for that, because in addition to this Mining and Smithing rework prototype that we saw, which obviously went through a lot more, to the fact that 3 years later they actually announced that they have something that is actually playable and that they can actually ship. Just the fact it took so long, right? In various incarnations. But they also said that they were going to be doing more raids for Mascabot that year. And we know that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. I mean, obviously it wasn't at RuneFest the following year, but I think a year or so later when people were asking about it, they said at the time that they have to look at a different direction. And that's where I think Elite Dungeons started to be developed, because the way the Mazcab, well, I think you could only every 48 hours that you could get the drops, and I think there was some sort of lock there, and just the amount of people playing it and things, I think sort of killed off that. And
I feel like just the difficulty at the time of raids, and also factoring in the grouping system with it, and even today, raids is one of the pieces of content that if you don't have people who know exactly what they're doing, you can still fail it spectacularly.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I think that's why they probably ended it there after 2 and just went the Elite Dungeon route instead, which, you go back to that, that was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think if they could have their time over again, they would not do raids at all, and it would just be all Elite Dungeons.
RuneFest 2014. Sorry, Tanis, go ahead.
I was just going to say, ironically, that's more of a raid than the raids.
Yeah. RuneFest 2014 announced Rune Labs.
Rune Labs! We all remember Rune Labs.
The 200th quest, Dimension of Disaster. Dishonor Among Thieves, The Elder Gods, RuneScape Chronicle.
I liked that.
Yeah. Again, a game designed for mobile. I mean, a game that is perfect for mobile that they released on desktop and never did the mobile version of it.
Because by the time
they're always just a little too late. Like,
because by the time
with the idea,
it hit its full stride and they could have put it on mobile, card games were kind of going down.
Yep. But again, that was a game that was so perfect. I could be sitting there at lunchtime, open up a game of Chronicle and play someone while I'm on my lunch break, and bang, But yeah, they again, one of the ones they dropped the ball on there. It should have just been developed as a mobile game first and foremost.
The one big thing that did come out of 2014 that is still going strong today is Iron Man game mode.
Yep, love it.
Sure is.
We also got a peek at what the adventure skill would look like, because recall that RuneFest 2014 would have took place in the tail end of the year, because at the start of the year they opened up the voting for player power with either the Elf City or Invention, and obviously Elf City won, so at this point it's time to start talking about Invention, and oh boy, another year and a half until Invention arrived in early 2016, and it kind of, I feel like, just went flat on launch. Is that a good way to describe the Invention launch?
Well,
again, elite skill. It needed three different things, which that was fine in itself. But that having that different XP curve, I think, hurt it a lot.
It was booming at launch. A real big boom.
Those
everywhere.
people who had the heads up on the hand cannons, and they again sort of, I think they dropped the ball a bit on that one, but I mean it's still a decent skill, but yeah.
And for what it's worth, they did confirm that it would be there in 2015's RuneFest, because it launched in January 2016. So. Obviously needed a bit of work for it. That's why I had the asterisk next to it. But there was also Valley of the Dead, which was going to be the RuneScape Battle Royale. And the ideas behind it were saved for Iron Man mode and Darkscape.
Oh, Darkscape.
Darkscape was so fun.
Darkscape is a mode they should bring back as a yearly challenge thing.
It should be like a Halloween thing, like it's Darkscape is back.
Hang on. Yeah. I get the idea behind it. But the issue is that our combat now is just so overpowered that the amount of damage you do, you just destroy a player character in 1 to 2 hits.
Yeah, that's always been my freaking experience anyway.
But again, they can put the XP modifiers up, and they could halve or even quarter the damage modifiers.
I think
that for a game mode like that.
I think it'd be too big of a risk to do something PvP related with RS3.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, again, it was Darkscape was that mode that I loved it for a couple of. I mean, I think I played it for 2 months, maybe 2.5 months, and then just stopped. It was
a temporary thing.
Exactly. That's all you could have. It's a once a year temporary game mode for people who want to have a bit of a challenge and a laugh with mates and things, and let it go at that. Same as that other one that they bought out, that Halloween competition thing that they did.
That would be really fun.
Dimension of the Dam, that you got killed by the fox.
Yes, and then they screwed up by putting in an extra thing at the last one, and just everyone loved it. And then they had that one little glitch for the finals and screwed everyone up.
That's a little one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it was a little. It was just one little thing. Let's put some fog in that does this, and then just wiped everyone out, and no one knew what was going on, and they just
make it invisible.
So the question is, had they done Valley of the Dead instead of Darkscape, do you think that we would have been able to reverse the direction this game went PvP wise? Because RuneFest 2014 wasn't necessarily too far down the EOC track that you couldn't necessarily backtrack on that.
I mean, again, I'm not a big PvPer, so it's hard for me to do that. If it was, again, temporary game mode, you go in there, you do this, it comes out once a year and it's a 6 or 8 week thing. Yeah, I'd probably be involved in it. But if it was like a permanent thing where you go in and you play it every day, that, again, I think it probably would die off fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's just the state of PvP with RS3.
Mm.
And I think the ultimate form of irony will be that if we, fast forward 3 weeks into the future and we see, they announced a PvP-based game for RS3 at RuneFest. Oopsies.
And again, I mean,
yeah, right.
we still know nothing about this.
Yeah, right.
This special project.
Yeah.
But, how long's Mod Mark been working on this special project thing for? I mean, he's been ripped out of RS3 really as the face man of the game.
Oh yeah, right. The survival game.
Yeah, and I mean, what's that been? 5 years? That was before COVID that he was pulled out and sort of working on that, and we still know nothing about it.
RuneFest 2013, the one we all remember.
The Church of You!
The biggest update that was announced that never came.
Someone would say we're still waiting on its return.
The idea behind this is that there would be a piece of content where the player would be worshipped by others, and you would have a relationship and storyline with other NPCs who would come and visit the church to worship you.
As we should.
Everyone loved this, but I thought, no, that's not what I want.
Janice,
you were a big Church of You proponent.
Absolutely. I believe I should be worshipped, and I'm so disappointed we didn't get this. Still disappointed we didn't get this. This one's the one that hurt.
Why? Because it feels like I don't have any real affinity or attachment to it. Why do you feel that way?
Because I would be a benevolent deity, and God, I've done more for Gilnor than any of those other gods ever did. I saved them from the gods. There should be a church to me, and I'll show the other gods what to do with money. Because when we pass the offering plate, it'll actually go to a good cause, and I'll use it.
And see, that's the thing. That's the era we were in of godless and all the factions out there. And the idea behind it was to create some sort of storyline with it, and maybe have. I think they wanted the godless to come out ahead with that, and maybe this just didn't fit into the whole grand plans of what they wanted to do with the Sixth Age. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's
again. I just think this was a Mod Osborne's drunk too much and throwing this out. And
no, it was a Mod Mark proposal.
No, that was Mark. Yeah.
Oh, Mod Mark. Sorry, Mod Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Other pieces of content that were announced at this RuneFest include the Bird and the Beast World Event 2. Cabbage Face Punch Bonanza.
Event? Yep.
I think World Event 2 was everybody's favorite, wasn't it?
Yeah. World Event 2 was brilliant, except the end. I don't think we should have killed off a god. But,
no. We could have.
I like the first one where sort of where Zamorak got knocked down a few pegs, but yeah, having gods like especially Armadil, who is all about lore and all that, it just seemed out of character that he'll just turn around and cut the head off.
I am the law.
Yeah, I mean, if Grador had won and killed Armadil, I could sort of accept it with his personality. But yeah,
do we think that it was expected that they were expecting? Let me rephrase that. Do you think they were expecting that Bandos would have won? Just like they were expecting that Saradomin would have won World Event. Or, sorry, Zamorak would have won World Event 1 because of the player edgelords.
Maybe.
Probably, yeah. Because, it just didn't fit Armadale's character to behead someone. And killing off gods, I mean... It's a very big thing, especially okay, Bandos is a secondary god to sort of your top 3 in game, but still, he was a pretty prominent guy.
Words have to mean something. God is a big word. Damn it.
I mean, you look at Saradomin's such a gutless. I mean, his own world gets attacked by Tusker, so he runs away to Gielinor and hides, and then and we'll have to do another book review soon because Invasion of Helidale, it shows his true character. He is gutless. I mean, I'm sorry how anyone could follow Saradomin, but then you follow Saradomin or you follow who was at the time the evil god. So it's the lesser of two evils that you had to choose between.
Yeah. They were also trying to give all the factions airtime because what was it? The Cabbage Face Punch was the Brassican faction versus the Monkey Marimbo faction.
I still enjoy Cabbage Face Punch Bonanza, but unfortunately can't play it because
nobody plays it.
I think they finally fixed it. Yeah, but you could play it solo, and which is what I love doing to earn the points and things. But now that they finally fix it, but after I've already bought the stuff that I need off the player-owned farm anyway. So yeah.
This was also the first mention of invention, of course, which took an entirely different form than we got later on, and this early form was basically you would customize this own weapon that you would then be able to give to another player with any myriad of perks behind it. And obviously, when you look at the origins of that and you realize how all that fits in, it never really was able to come to fruition in that way just because of the complexity behind it. But I feel like this was, again, let's be aspirational at RuneFest when maybe that wasn't necessarily the place to be doing that.
Yeah. Again, a skill that was in its infancy. I think that was the same year we had the Divination come out, wasn't it? Was that 213 or 214 Divination?
Yeah, Divination was August 2013.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be the skill that went hand in hand with that, and again, in its infancy, and they had to basically rewrite everything because what they announced was so grandiose that it was just unable to be done in this type of game.
Yeah. We also had Fate of the Gods that year, and another announcement of the Valley of the Dead, which we know where that went. And as far as we can tell, we're going to believe the collective wiki on this. In RuneFest 2010 and 2011, there was no future content discussion there because it was more of just a gathering.
More of a meet and greet. Yeah, it was a meet and greet
kind of thing there for it when this was really getting off into its infancy there at the early RuneFest discussions. So
that's the other thing I feel like it's a trend here too. It's not just the messaging, but I think the overall RuneFest in general, you kind of see it tightening up as the years go by, and like that general kind of trend.
Like to be more refined and more focused on kind of like a keynote of what's to come, sort of.
Yes. Yeah. And you see it being like built around a theme. Like look at Anachronia versus like 2015. Right, where it's like scattershot all over the place.
Yeah.
And then it starts to really be themed. Sorry, I just started noticing that as we're going. The further back we're
No,
going,
and that's fine because RuneFest. Now that you mention it, thinking back to it, the theme of RuneFest 2018 was dinosaurs and Anachronia to the point they had inflatable dinosaurs running around.
Mm-hmm.
What was the year they had the all the pirates?
I think that was 2019.
Yeah, pieces of
the songs.
here.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, they had that great song. All the mods singing it.
The port song.
The sea shanty, yeah.
Yeah, that was that was like
song.
way back in the day. That was for player-owned ports in 2012,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So, and I feel like that it's okay to talk about aspirational things and things you could do in an experimental fashion at RuneFest, but you need to be very clear at this point that these are experimental, just like they were when they talked about, maybe we'd have a demo of a RuneScape with a lower tick rate sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like the number one biggest thing that you see, I think I said, going into specifically starting with 2018, but also 2017 a bit, is that you got to release what you announce. You just have to. So,
and we didn't have a 2012 RuneFest because I think that was the year they were talking about going to America or something and ended up just cancelling it.
Yeah, they didn't do 2012. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was there.
Yeah, no, I think that was because that was just the year after I started, and everyone was talking about doing RuneFest in America, and then they didn't do a RuneFest at all.
I still maintain that their best places to do it if they ever want to go into the U.S. would either be Las Vegas or Miami for the two West Coast and East Coast options.
Vegas over Miami, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially if it's in the summer, given the heat and humidity.
And, yeah. Miami's so freaking expensive for no good reason.
Yeah, and that would be the same issue with doing it in like a Chicago or a New York.
Chicago would be way more reasonable and centrally located.
But the cost, so I wouldn't...
their cost, my cost would be freaking awesome.
Another one that I always see come up is Atlanta.
Yeah, another airport hub. So
yeah.
But
safe to say it'll be in the UK in a few weeks' time. I'll be there. If you are listening to this and you'll be there, stay tuned. Next week we'll have details on what we'll be doing for that. But anybody have anything else on the RuneFest coverage? I think years?
I think as we said, just they did tighten up a lot, and especially from 2017 onwards, it really improved, and most things come in. Whereas before, was a lot of pie in the sky ideas just thrown out there. See what sticks. And again, I don't mind that type of thing as long as they sort of let us know that, hey, these are just ideas we're throwing around.
Yeah.
No guarantee it's going to come, but hey, and just sort of get some reaction for it too. Mm-hmm. I don't mind that type of thing in that live event to see what initial reactions are, rather than waiting and seeing what the clickbaiters sort of say. Mm-hmm. Get that live true fan reaction at the time. But yeah, we shall see. Hopefully it'll be a great one. It'd be great to see it back after 5 years. Sadly, I won't be there. So for all you people, expecting to meet your second favourite Australian, no, it won't be happening this year. Maybe next year.
Fair enough. Alrighty. What have we been doing in RS? You can start. One of you.
I have been a bad team member. I basically told everyone there was some fish was in the fridge and I'd be back. And
that's okay, because we'll hear about that in Pick of the Week.
Yeah, you'll know why. But
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Tannis deserted us for a week.
Don't worry about it.
But there was food in the fridge, and
there is, yes.
and so
Yes,
Don't worry about it.
And that did help me with a couple of the quests that I did. Basically, as I said at the end of last week, I was aiming to get to Priftness by today. That actually happened on Tuesday. I got into Prift, so wonderful getting into there, getting all that done. The boss fight, again, obviously, Invention are the highest tier weapons and sort of highest level I am using that. Made the boss fight so much easier.
For Plague's End?
Yeah. I remember dying to that like 4 or 5 times the first time, and this time I'm sitting there waiting for that final boss fight. I go, oh, okay, that was it. Didn't use any food at all. It was. But yeah, again, really fun quest. Did Branches of Darkmire, so I can start working towards getting my Sun Spear. I think that's the next quest I have to do, but I think there's 2 or 3 side quests that I need to do first. That was a lot of fun. Again, not hard. It was just I died once. That was just my stupidity for forgetting when he shouts "Feel the Darkness" or whatever it is, that he just smacks you for full life points. When I remembered that, to jump back out of the way, knocked him down very quickly after that. So just been doing that, been working on sort of just leveling everything up to get all quests done. The worst one is going to be 83 agility, because I am only on 76 at the moment. Still haven't hit 90 Slayer. I
was expecting you would be leading us in that.
Yeah, I was expecting to have 90 Slayer like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, just the tasks that I've been getting are just the crappy ones. I still haven't had an Abyssal Demon task off, and I'm going to Kurudon.
Really?
Yeah, she's just given me, Dust Devils and all those types. I'm sitting there going, these things are worth 58 points. Come on. I've just been getting a lot of crappy tasks. I don't know if that's just bad luck. At the moment, my one is the 280 volcanic creatures, so I go get my fire cape. I will remember to put the prayers on my bar this time, unlike last time where I forgot and then
cakewalk at this point in time, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, again, it was just my stupidity of not having the prayers on the action bar ready to switch between. Other than that, yeah, just having a lot of fun. As being in Prif, I am working towards the hard Tyranwin tasks, so I can start really collecting those Granwell spikes we need. Thaxi is obviously our herbalist. He'll be making us all our potions.
Yeah.
And that's basically it, I think.
All right. As for me, I can resume the melee combat track. I hit level 60 attack and strength last night, which means it's time for Dragon Halberd, which necessitates doing Plague City, Biohazard, Underground Pass, and Regicide in short succession.
Is that
hopefully.
to be able to wield it? Can you wield it if someone else buys it for you?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I'll drop mine into the bank and see if you can just use it.
Yeah, we'll test that after the show. That's actually a very good thing to...
I'm pretty sure Regicide's required for the halberd, if I remember right.
To wield it.
Wield it.
Because I know you have to do it to be able to buy it, but yeah.
Yeah, and that could be...
be able to buy it off the exchange.
Yeah. And that could be the case, because that's very much the same thing that exists for the Dragon Battle Axe and Dragon Mace after Heroes, and the Dagger and the Longsword after Lost City. So that is how they did things back then. So I would lean in that direction, but we'll try it nonetheless with that. But aside from that, just continuing on the on the farming push there. Still no luck on getting the second male dragon, unfortunately, either through breeding or through your hunting for it.
Yeah, I do at least an hour a day, and like even before the show, I did 2 hours basically when I got up and logged on, which was, well, I logged on just before 12 and then logged out just before we started the show, just doing dragons, and yep, still nothing. So they are as rare as they say.
And you take it for granted that you can just go pop into the Grand Exchange and pick one up and get the
well, even
right
as you said, I mean, I've got 3, but they've all been females.
Yeah, and by logic, the next one should be the right one, hopefully. And if not, we're getting very unlucky with that. But aside from that, I really do need to get back onto a focus of doing the hunter and thieving aspects of it too, because I'm starting to think that will be the skill side of it, at which I really feel like we can kind of lean into for a lot of the things that come from Big Game Hunter, for example, and some of the high-level thieving stuff like the Cruxakel Knights. They're very good for herb seeds, which we've been having trouble getting from PVM and Slayer, unfortunately. So it's just a question of micro-targeting. Yeah.
That's it. Torstals are our biggest one because they drop, obviously, as grimy from Big Game Hunter, and the seeds are so rare. They need. I mean, I remember back when I first started, getting a Torsal seed at, and selling it on the Grand Exchange for 277,000. It's like, whoa! Mm-hmm. But it's like it's a mainstream herb now, so I think they do need to perhaps look at the drop logs on some of those seeds.
Right, because we rely on farming the herbs now for bringing them into the economy, except for Slayer stuff in most cases on that. So
exactly.
And you also at that same time you look into how that has gone, and I think on the surface level for most of the players out there in the wider RuneScape economy, that's fine, but I feel like there's still a few pressure points with that on the Iron Man side in particular.
Yeah. So. And I don't mind having to work to get them.
No,
but
of course
there's
not.
There's got to be a spot where we can actually get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even as I said, even if it's not the herb itself, just give us more spots where we can earn Torstal seeds, because there's 2 or 3 high level bosses is all you can really guarantee not even a reasonable supply, just any supply at the moment.
Yeah. And I also took it upon myself to get 65 wood cutting by accident, because you do eventually need, I think it's 70 something for one of the quests, but I also had just sitting around a requirement of 60 fire making that was needed for one of the task set that needs to be done. So I went from 53 to 60 fire making in one night, which was good. And culminating all this, you have things like Jack of Trades that are just adding up over time. That got me to 80 herb lore and 1,700 total.
Well, I haven't done my Jack of Trades for the last 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like a bit of a slog in that regard, and I definitely do want to keep it up, because I want to get 90 herb lore, because that's when you can start making the primal pulp, and as a different method of herb lore training there for that. So, but I mean, it'll be a secondary case, because we already have Thaxi. I think he got like 95 last night. I think it was. That was the broadcast.
Yeah, Thaxi hit 95 last night, which gives us the
one level away from overload
now. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, well, he can boost for overloads now. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or boost properly. I mean, you can boost from lower, but it goes down so quickly. So 95, you'll get a few done before you sort of need to boost again.
But my biggest thing that's outstanding that I need to do is I just need to sit down and do a boatload of quests, both the start of the Elven line, as I mentioned, but I also have some in Mauritania to do. I have things like Heroes and Shield of Arav still to do, and then we can, get Legends done and start working up for that massive wall of all the Elder God Wars stuff, which is just
the good thing about
insane.
Shield of Arav is it is solo now. You don't have
that
to
and Heroes they did make it soloable, so you don't need to rely on that now. So that's good.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been up to.
Very nice.
We do have a few achievements as well for this week, including Dom the Mexican, who got 99 herb lore on the 11th. Scotty XOX got 200 million mining on February 9th. Dom the Mexican again with 99 archaeology on the 6th. And UltraDog 177 with 120 necromancy on February 6th. Nice job,
If I
everyone.
can just correct you, Dom the Mexican was 99 invention, not herb lore. Shane's got herb lore on the brain.
Oh, did I say herb lore?
99 invention. Yeah, but it was invention he hit.
Oops.
For that, he's got one more to max. One more skill, I think it is, to max. So,
all right.
Hopefully, we'll be reading that next week.
Fair enough. Tannis, pick of the week. What do you got?
So longtime listeners might know that my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VII. They've been working on doing the remakes for years and years, and recently they've released the second edition of the Final Fantasy remake, Rebirth. But this week the pick is actually the prequel to Final Fantasy VII, which is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. So this is actually part of the remake series, but this is a prequel game to it. And yeah, I actually got this probably before Christmas break. Did not start playing it because I knew once I did that I was gonna be in it for a minute, and I didn't even realize it had been as many days it had been.
I mean, don't worry about it. You left the food in the fridge. It's fine.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know, these RPGs, these classic kind of RPGs I love to spend a ton of time in the beginning just grinding, just getting as OP as I possibly can, and then just annihilating everything in the game, right? That's how I enjoy playing it, and then you can go through the game again and try to get all your trophies or optional bosses and stuff like that. But yeah, I've really been enjoying this game, and
graphics look phenomenal.
And there
was
an
did you say the remake was from?
I believe the remake is 2020. I think that's 20 or 21. This one, Crisis Core, is 22, and then Rebirth came out this year.
Oh, I have Reunion listed in the. Am I looking at the right one? I'm looking at Reunion.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
Reunion.
Crisis Core Reunion.
Okay, I thought you said Rebirth there for a second.
That's the latest one in the remake series. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot about the Final Fantasy series in general and where that's gone, and I know that a lot of people who play the traditional MMOs who have looked for something else have gone to what has culminated in, of course, Final Fantasy 14. But I know that there's also just the legendary status here behind 7 as well, that I remember going way back to when these games were first launched. And I've never played any of them, and mainly because it was a product of playing other things at the same time. But I understand what a draw it is to have something like a rework like this that arrives to something that speaks to you on that. So, I'll link that on Steam. That's the best platform for this.
Yeah, and I mean, and they nailed it, right? Like so many times you get a rework or remaster, and it's okay, it's a little modern reskin, but this is like rebuilt from the ground up. It still has the same kind of emotional pull. It, it's everything you remember. Like it gives you that nostalgia served up on a platter, but they just decked out that platter, man. They made it modern. They made it pretty. It, yeah, great. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to one final note on the RuneFest stuff. If you don't have anything else on Final Fantasy, just to end the show with it. The discussion of tent poles and the need to pitch that tent and deliver those content pieces that can be tent poles every 2 to 3 months. That's something that we haven't seen in a while, and I think if they can offer that up for this upcoming RuneFest, we'll be in a tremendous position to be able to capitalize on building some momentum and carrying it forward for the year. Because, we really haven't had many of those since, I want to say, Zamorak, Necromancy, and Sanctum this past year, when you think about it, really. So,
yeah.
The ability to build on those and carry them forward is very important, and I think that's another thing that RuneFest teaches as a lesson, is to be able to give this kind of content to the players at a regular cadence. I know that was a dirty word at one point, but I feel like we can say it now. Does anybody have anything else here before we go? I think that that pretty much does us in for this episode.
No, that's about it from me.
Yep, all right. That's all I got.
Alrighty then. Well, if you want the episodes delivered automatically to you as they go live, head on over to update.show/subscribe. We're on all the podcast listening services out there, all the big ones at least. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Amazon, and of course YouTube as well, youtube.com/RSBANDB. Like and subscribe greatly helps the channel out, even if you're only listening on audio, because that is Google's podcast platform of choice now. So the podcasts, even the audio ones, are competing with YouTube videos in that regard. So like and subscribe there helps us out a lot. But we'll be back next week for Combat Achievements, another episode of RSBANDB Update. And we'll see you then, everybody. Take care.
See you.
Adios.